The sun rose slowly over the red earth of Mbale village, and the morning air was full of music and laughter. Drums echoed through the narrow paths, and women in bright wrappers moved like waves of color. It was Amara Doob's wedding day, a day that every girl in the village dreamed about. Her mother had been awake since before sunrise, cooking yam and stew, while her father, Baba Dubey, stood proudly outside greeting visitors. Everyone in the village knew that today was special. Inside the small clay house, Amara sat quietly as her friends braided her hair and tied her headscarf. They sang softly, teasing her about her new life as a wife. She smiled, but her hands trembled slightly as she held her beads. The excitement around her was loud, but inside, she felt a small fear growing. It was not the fear of marriage itself. Kofi Mensah was a kind man, well known in Bale for his farm and his honesty. But something in Amara's heart whispered that this day was not what it seemed. Her little sister, Lila, ran into the room with a basket of flowers. "Sister, come see. The men have already started to build the dance stage," she said, her eyes wide with joy. Amara smiled and followed her outside. The whole village seemed alive. Children ran around chasing goats, old men sat under palm trees talking about the feast, and the air smelled of roasted maize and palm wine. Amara's father looked at her proudly. "My daughter, today you make our family proud. Kofi is a good man. You will have a good life." She nodded and touched his hand. "Yes, Baba," she said softly. But in her chest, her heart beat fast. The sun climbed higher, turning the sky bright gold. The women began to drum louder, and Amara's mother called out, "It's time! Bring out the bride." Everyone cheered. Amara was led to the yard where she would be blessed before leaving for Kofi's home. She wore a wrapper of yellow and red, her neck heavy with beads. The people clapped as she stepped forward, her beauty glowing in the morning light. But as the ceremony began, a strange wind blew through the village. The drums faltered for a moment. Amara felt a chill run down her spine, though the day was warm. She looked around. Nothing seemed wrong, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her from the trees at the edge of the village. Her friend Asha leaned close and whispered, "You are shaking. Are you cold?" Amara forced a smile. "No, just nervous." "Don't be," Asha said, laughing softly. "After today, you will live in comfort. Kofi has cows, goats, and land. You will never have to work too hard again." But Amara did not care for wealth. She only wanted peace. She remembered how her mother once told her that marriage was like a journey, beautiful at the start, but full of unknown roads. That thought made her uneasy again. Soon the drummers began a new rhythm. Kofi arrived with his family, dressed in white and blue. His face shone with pride. He bowed to Amara's parents and smiled at her warmly. "You look like the morning sun," he said softly. She smiled back, though her heart still felt heavy. As the ceremony went on, people sang and danced around them. Gifts were brought, baskets of yam, calabashes of honey, and folded fabrics. Everything seemed perfect. But then, in the middle of the noise and dancing, Amara heard something strange. It was not the sound of drums or singing. It was a low hum, deep and steady, coming from the forest side. She turned her head, her eyes narrowing. The forest behind the village looked darker than usual, as if the trees were hiding something. For a moment, she thought she saw movement, a shadow between the trunks. Her breath caught, and she took a small step back. "Amara, are you all right?" her mother asked, touching her arm. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm fine." But her eyes stayed on the forest. The elders began the final blessing, and everyone gathered closer. Amara tried to focus, to smile, to believe that her fear was only her imagination. The chants rose louder. The drums beat faster. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then the wind blew again, harder this time, and the fire in the cooking pots flickered. The drums stopped suddenly. For a few seconds, the village grew silent. Even the birds stopped singing. Everyone looked around in confusion. Amara opened her eyes and saw a cloud of dust rising at the far end of the path. Through the dust came a line of dancers, masked figures dressed in red cloth and cowrie shells. At first, everyone thought they were part of the celebration. The crowd cheered and clapped as they drew closer. But Amara noticed something odd. Their steps were not in rhythm, and their masks were painted in strange symbols she had never seen. Her father frowned. "Who are they? I did not invite any more dancers." Kofi stepped forward, confused. "Maybe they are from the next village." The masked figures entered the open space and began to circle slowly around Amara. The crowd laughed, thinking it was part of the show. But Amara felt her knees grow weak. The hum she heard earlier was back, coming from them. Before anyone could react, one of the masked figures raised his hand, and a thick smoke burst from a calabash. People coughed and shouted. Through the smoke, Amara felt a hand grab her arm. She tried to scream, but her voice was lost in the noise. The world around her spun as the smoke thickened. "Amara!" her mother's voice cried out. "Amara!" her father shouted. Then everything went dark. When Amara opened her eyes again, the drums were gone. The laughter was gone. The sunlight had faded. She was lying on the ground somewhere quiet, surrounded by tall trees. Her head ached, and her wrists felt heavy, tied with a rough rope. She tried to call out, but only a weak sound escaped her lips. The forest was silent except for the rustle of leaves. Slowly, Amara sat up and looked around. The air smelled of damp earth and wild herbs. A shadow moved nearby, and she froze. Someone was there. From behind a tree stepped a woman dressed in brown cloth, her eyes calm but serious. "You are safe now," the woman said softly. "Do not be afraid." Amara stared at her. "Who are you? Where am I?" The woman smiled faintly. "You are far from Bale village. You were not taken to be harmed. You were taken to be saved." Amara blinked, too weak to speak. Her heart pounded as the woman knelt beside her and untied her wrists. "Rest now," she said. "You will understand everything soon." The woman handed her a small gourd of water. Amara drank slowly, her mind full of questions. The forest around her seemed alive, whispering secrets she could not yet hear. Back in Bale village, the drums of celebration had turned into drums of sorrow. Baba Dubey searched every path, shouting his daughter's name. The people whispered in fear. Some said the spirits of the forest had come for her. Others said jealous rivals had taken her away. But no one truly knew what had happened. As night fell over the red earth, the village lights dimmed. Only the sound of the wind moved through the empty paths. In the forest, Amara sat quietly, the gourd still in her hands, her mind heavy with confusion. She thought of her family, of Kofi, of her lost wedding day. She had no idea that this was only the beginning, and that the truth waiting for her would change everything she believed. The sun stood high above Mbale village when the celebration began. The air was filled with joy, laughter, and the smell of food cooking over open fires. Women clapped their hands to the rhythm of the drums, and men danced in a circle, their voices rising in praise for the bride and groom. Children ran between the huts, throwing flower petals and singing small songs they had learned for the wedding. Amara Dubey stood inside her father's house, ready to step out. Her friends surrounded her, adjusting her bright yellow wrapper and placing beads around her neck. Her heart beat fast. The noise outside was loud, but her thoughts were louder. This was the day she had waited for, yet something inside her still whispered that all was not well. "Amara," her mother said softly, brushing a small thread from her shoulder. "It is time. Everyone is waiting for you." Amara nodded slowly. She took a deep breath and smiled, though her smile trembled a little. "Yes, Mama." When she stepped out of the house, the crowd cheered. Her yellow wrapper shone under the sunlight like the wings of a golden bird. People called her name and blessed her with kind words. Kofi Mensah, her husband-to-be, stood proudly near the stage made of palm branches. He smiled when he saw her, and she smiled back, trying to quiet the storm inside her chest. The drummers beat faster, and the ceremony began. Elders spoke blessings, women ululated, and the young men danced around the couple. It was a picture of joy, the kind of day that songs are written about. Amara's father, Baba Dubey, stood tall beside her, his face full of pride. Then, without warning, the mood began to change. The wind shifted suddenly, blowing dust through the air. The drummers looked at one another, but kept playing. The sky dimmed just a little, and the birds that had been singing near the trees went silent. A strange rhythm entered the sound of the drums, a beat no one recognized. Out of the narrow path leading from the forest came a line of new dancers. They wore red and black wrappers, their faces covered with carved wooden masks. Around their ankles, shells rattled with every step. The crowd cheered, thinking it was another surprise performance for the bride and groom. But Baba Dubey frowned. "Who invited them?" he asked in a low voice. No one answered. The masked dancers moved closer, their movements slow but strong. Their drums beat in a deep, strange tone, not joyful, but heavy, like thunder rolling far away. They formed a circle around Amara, still dancing. People clapped and laughed, thinking it was all part of the show. Amara, however, felt her heart race. Something about them was wrong. Their masks were not like the ones used in village festivals. The eyes on the masks were drawn wide, almost alive, and the colors were darker, painted in ash and deep red. "Kofi," she whispered. "Who are they?" Kofi looked uncertain. "Maybe they are from another village." "Do not be afraid, my love." Before he could step closer, one of the masked dancers raised his hand, and the drumming stopped all at once. The silence that followed was heavy. For a moment, no one moved. Then came a loud sound, the beat of a large drum from behind the group. Smoke filled the air, thick and strange, smelling like burnt leaves and herbs. People coughed and backed away. In the confusion, Amara felt someone grab her wrist. She tried to pull free, but the hand was strong. The smoke grew thicker. Voices shouted her name, "Amara! Amara!" But she couldn't see anyone. Her head spun, her eyes watered, and she felt her feet lift from the ground as someone pulled her away. Then everything went black. When she opened her eyes again, the sky was dark. She was no longer in Bale village. Her wrists were tied with soft rope, and the sound of crickets filled the air. She lay on the ground, and when she tried to move, her head ached. "Where am I?" she whispered. A voice answered from nearby. "You are safe for now. Do not be afraid." Amara turned her head and saw one of the masked figures sitting beside her. The mask was gone now, and the face revealed was that of a young man, maybe no older than Kofi. His eyes were kind but tired. "Why did you take me?" she asked weakly. He shook his head. "We did not take you to harm you. We saved you." "Saved me? From what?" she asked. The man looked away. "From the lies that surrounded your marriage. From the people who wanted to use you." Amara frowned, trying to understand. "What are you saying? My family, my husband, they would never." He raised a hand gently. "Rest, Amara. You will know the truth soon. The woman who sent us will speak to you in the morning." Amara wanted to argue, but her body felt heavy. She closed her eyes, and the sound of the forest wrapped around her like a blanket. Back in Bale village, chaos filled the night. Baba Dubey was running through the paths with a torch in his hand, shouting his daughter's name. "Amara! Amara!" His wife cried behind him, her voice broken. The people searched everywhere, near the river, in the forest's edge, around the fields, but there was no sign of the bride. Kofi knelt near the village square, his white clothes covered in dust. His face was pale, his eyes wide with shock. "I don't understand," he kept saying. "They came from nowhere. It was like they disappeared into smoke." The elders gathered to discuss what had happened. Some said it was the work of jealous spirits. Others whispered that someone from another village had planned the attack. But no one could agree. The only thing they knew for certain was that Amara was gone. As the night deepened, the drummers sat silently beside their instruments. The fire burned low. The happiness that had filled Bale that morning had vanished completely. Baba Dubey stood alone outside his house, staring into the darkness. His hands were shaking, but his eyes burned with determination. "I will find her," he whispered. "Before the next moon rises, I will find my daughter." Far away, deep in the forest, Amara opened her eyes again. A woman sat beside a small fire, watching her closely. The woman's hair was wrapped in a dark cloth, and her eyes shone with quiet strength. "You must eat something," the woman said. "You will need your strength." Amara sat up slowly. "Who are you?" "My name is Amina," the woman said. "You are safe with us." Amara shook her head. "Safe? You call this safe?" You took me from my wedding. My family will think I'm dead. Amina sighed. I understand your anger. But you must believe me. We did not take you to hurt you. We took you because your life was in danger. Amara stared at her, not believing. Danger? From whom? From those who smiled at you this morning, Amina said softly. From those who called you daughter and bride. Amara's mouth went dry. You are lying, she said, but her voice was weak. Amina looked into the fire. Sleep now. When morning comes, you will see the truth for yourself. Amara lay back, her heart heavy with fear and confusion. The forest was alive with strange sounds, owls, insects, and the whisper of wind through the trees. She thought of her mother's tears, her father's voice, and Kofi's face in the smoke. Everything had changed in a single heartbeat. She did not know where she was or why she had been taken. But deep inside, she felt that her life would never be the same again. Amara woke slowly to the soft sound of birds singing outside. The air smelled of damp earth and wood smoke. Her body felt weak, and her head ached as if she had been asleep for many days. When she opened her eyes, she saw that she was lying on a mat inside a small hut made of mud and grass. Sunlight came through a small hole in the roof, lighting the room in a warm glow. She sat up slowly and looked around. A clay pot stood in one corner, and beside it lay a wooden bowl filled with herbs. The place was quiet except for the soft crackle of fire outside. For a moment, Amara could not remember what had happened. Then the memories rushed back, the wedding, the masked dancers, the smoke, and the forest. Her heart began to beat fast. Where am I? She whispered. Before she could stand, the door curtain moved, and a woman entered carrying a small tray. She was tall and calm, her face kind but serious. She wore a brown wrapper and a necklace made from shells. You are awake, the woman said softly. Good. You need to eat. Amara stared at her. Who are you? Why did you take me? Where is my family? The woman placed the tray beside her and sat down. My name is Amina, she said. I am part of the group that brought you here. We did not take you to harm you. We took you to save you. Amara frowned, her eyes full of confusion. Save me? From what? My wedding was supposed to make peace between families. Why would anyone need to save me? Amina sighed and looked down at the ground for a moment before speaking. I know you will find this hard to believe, but the man you were to marry, Kofi Mensah, is not the man you think he is. Your marriage was planned not out of love, but out of greed. Kofi and his family wanted your late mother's farmland, the land your father promised would stay in your name. Amara shook her head. No. That cannot be true. Kofi would never do such a thing. He is a good man. Amina interrupted gently. He may have seemed good, but sometimes people wear masks even when they are not dancers. You saw it yourself at the wedding, a play of masks and confusion. Your life was in danger, Amara. Once you married him, his family would have the right to your land, and they planned to take it all. Amara's breath caught. Her hands trembled as she tried to understand. How do you know this? She asked. Because one of Kofi's own men came to us, Amina replied. He told us everything. He had grown tired of their lies. We have been watching them for months, waiting for the right moment to act. We did not want to frighten you, but there was no other way. Amara looked away, tears filling her eyes. The thought that her marriage had been a lie broke something deep inside her. She remembered the way Kofi had smiled at her, the gentle way he had spoken during their meetings, and the promises he made. Were they all false? I should have known, she whispered. My heart tried to warn me. I felt something was wrong, but I ignored it. Amina placed a hand on her shoulder. Do not blame yourself. The heart sees what the eyes refuse to notice. You are safe now, and that is what matters. Amara looked at her with wet eyes. Safe. I am far from my home. My father will be searching for me. My mother will be crying. How can I call this safe? Amina smiled gently. You will see in time. The forest is not a prison. It is a place of truth. Here, we protect those who are betrayed and lost. You are not the first woman to come here, Amara. Amara was silent for a moment. She glanced around the hut again, taking in the smell of herbs and the gentle hum of life outside. She could hear voices, women speaking softly, children laughing, and the rhythm of a drum somewhere far away. "Who are these people?" she asked. "They are my people," Amina said. "We are called the Oba keepers. Many years ago, our mothers and grandmothers were forced out of their villages because they spoke against injustice. They came here and built a home in the forest. Since then, we have helped others who need protection, especially women like you." Amara stared at her, surprised. "You live here, away from everyone?" "Yes," Amina replied. "The forest gives us what we need. We grow food, we heal with herbs, and we teach our children to live in peace. The world outside can be cruel, but here we are free." Amara lowered her head. Her heart was torn between fear and curiosity. She had always heard stories about people who lived deep in the forest, strange people, some said, even dangerous. But Amina's eyes showed kindness, not cruelty. Later that day, Amina brought her outside. The light of the afternoon sun poured through the tall trees. Around her, small huts stood in a circle, and smoke rose from cooking fires. Women were grinding maize, men were weaving baskets, and children were chasing each other with laughter. The air was warm and full of life. "This is your home for now," Amina said. "No one here will hurt you. Rest and heal. When you are ready, you may decide what you wish to do next." Amara nodded slowly, still unsure of what to believe. In the evening, she sat by the fire with Amina and a few others. They shared food, roasted plantain and palm nut soup, and told stories. The people spoke kindly to her, treating her not as a stranger but as one of their own. When night fell, the stars shone bright through the trees. Amara lay awake on her mat, listening to the sounds of the forest, crickets singing, leaves whispering, and the distant call of an owl. Her heart was heavy but also strangely calm. For the first time since her wedding day, she felt that she could breathe freely. The next morning, Amina took her to a stream nearby. The water was clear and cool. "This stream," Amina said, "is where we wash away the lies of the world. It reminds us to start again." Amara knelt by the stream and touched the water with her fingers. "Do you really believe I can start again?" she asked softly. Amina smiled. "I know you can. But first, you must face the truth, not only about Kofi but about yourself. You are stronger than you think." As the days passed, Amara began to learn the ways of the forest. She helped gather herbs, cooked with the women, and listened to Amina's lessons about courage and honesty. She still missed her family deeply, but she no longer felt trapped by fear. One night, as they sat by the fire, Amina handed her a folded cloth. Inside was a letter, written by one of Amina's messengers who had returned from Bale. Amara's hands shook as she read the words. Her father was still searching for her. Kofi's family had denied everything, saying Amara had run away out of shame. Some villagers believed them, but others began to doubt. Tears rolled down Amara's cheeks. "He must think I am dead," she whispered. Amina looked into the fire. "He will know the truth when the time is right. But first, you must be ready to return not as the frightened bride who left, but as a woman who knows her worth." Amara nodded slowly, the firelight reflecting in her eyes. "Then I will learn," she said quietly. "I will learn everything you can teach me." From that day on, Amara worked with new strength. She trained with the women, learning to read signs in the forest, to make healing oils, and to speak with calm even in anger. She began to understand that the forest was not just a hiding place, it was a teacher. Though her heart still longed for her family, she knew she was no longer the same girl who had stood in yellow on her wedding day. The forest had given her truth, and with truth came courage. The morning sun rose slowly over Mbale village, casting long shadows across the red soil. The village was quiet, as if the air itself waited for something. For days, the people had whispered stories about Amara Dubé, the bride who vanished on her wedding day. Some said spirits had taken her. Others said she had run away in shame. But no one truly knew the truth. Then, one bright morning, a group of travelers appeared on the road that led from the forest. At their front walked a young woman dressed in a plain brown wrapper, her hair tied neatly, her eyes calm but strong. The villagers stopped what they were doing and stared. A woman carrying water dropped her pot. Children ran to tell their parents. Soon the whole village came running to the square. It was Amara. Her father, Baba Dubey, was the first to reach her. His old face trembled with emotion as he rushed forward and pulled her into his arms. "My daughter! My child! You are alive!" he cried, his voice breaking. Amara held him tightly. "Yes, Baba. I am alive." Her mother came next, crying as she touched Amara's face, unable to believe her eyes. The people began to cheer and sing, overjoyed to see her again. But as they looked at her more closely, they saw that she was different. The shy bride they had known was gone. This Amara stood taller, her eyes steady, her voice calm. Behind her stood Amina and a few others from the forest, men and women who looked strong and peaceful. The villagers watched them with both curiosity and caution. Baba Dubey looked at them and asked, "Who are these people who bring my daughter home?" Amina stepped forward. "We are friends," she said simply. "We helped her when others tried to harm her." The crowd murmured, "Harm her? Who would harm Amara?" Amara took a deep breath and turned to face the crowd. "I will tell you everything," she said. The people gathered quickly in the village square. The elders sat under the big tree, and the young men stood behind them. The drummers came but did not play. Even Kofi Mensah and his family came, looking nervous and uncertain. When the noise quieted, Amara began to speak. Her voice was soft at first, but it grew stronger with every word. She told them everything, how she had been taken from her wedding, how she had woken in the forest, and how Amina's people had shown her the truth. She spoke of the plan that Kofi and his family had made, to take her mother's farmland once she became their daughter-in-law. She explained how one of Kofi's own men had confessed to Amina's group, how they had acted quickly to save her life. At first, the people gasped in disbelief. Some shook their heads, unwilling to accept it. "No," one old woman whispered. "Kofi is from a good family. They would not do such a thing." Amara looked straight at Kofi. "If I am lying," she said, "then look me in the eyes and say it." Kofi's face turned pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. His eyes dropped to the ground. His hands shook. His father, standing beside him, tried to speak, but the elders silenced him with a wave of their hands. "Is it true?" asked Elder Nato, the oldest man in the village. His voice was low but firm. "Did you plan this evil?" Kofi's father looked around helplessly. "We only wanted what was fair," he said weakly. "Her mother's land should have joined with ours after marriage. It was our right." Elder Nato's eyes flashed. "You call that fair? You wanted to steal from her family in the name of marriage. You would have taken her home, her land, and her peace." The crowd began to murmur loudly now. Some shouted in anger. The truth spread through the people like fire through dry grass. Baba Dubey stepped forward. His face was hard, his voice steady. "You deceived us," he said. "You smiled at our table and spoke of unity, while in your hearts you planned betrayal. My daughter could have died because of your greed." Kofi fell to his knees. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I did not want to hurt her. My father forced me." Amara raised her hand, stopping him. "You made your choice, Kofi. You had many chances to tell the truth, but you chose silence. I forgive you, but I will never forget what you did." The elders stood together, whispering among themselves. After a long silence, Elder Nato spoke again. "We have learned a painful lesson today. Greed has blinded us. We will no longer marry our sons and daughters for wealth or land. From this day, every union in Baal must be built on truth and respect." The people clapped and shouted in agreement. Some cried. Some hung their heads in shame. Amina stepped forward then, her calm eyes sweeping across the crowd. "The forest holds many secrets," she said, "but it also teaches wisdom. Do not let this lesson fade. A village that values gold over love will lose both." The elders nodded, and Baba Dubey turned to her. "We owe you thanks, Amina. You brought my daughter back when we thought all hope was lost." Amina smiled gently. "She brought herself back. We only showed her the way." That night, Baal village gathered for a different kind of feast. There was no loud drumming, no dancing of pride. Instead, The people shared simple food and sat together in peace. They spoke quietly about what had happened, each person promising to be more honest in their own dealings. Amara sat beside her father, watching the fire flicker in the night. Her heart was heavy with both sadness and relief. She had faced shame, fear, and betrayal, but she had also found her strength. Her mother leaned close and whispered, "You are brave, my child. You faced the truth when others would have run from it." Amara smiled softly. "I only did what was right." When most of the people had gone home, Amina came to sit beside her. The two women watched the last flames die down. "You will stay here now?" Amina asked. Amara nodded slowly. "Yes. This is my home. But I will not live in silence anymore. I will teach others what I have learned, that a woman's worth is not in her dowry or her husband's land. It is in her heart, her mind, and her courage." Amina smiled. "Then my work is done." The next morning, before the sun rose, Amina and her people left quietly, returning to the forest. Amara watched them disappear into the trees, a small smile on her face. In the days that followed, word spread through the nearby villages about what had happened. People came to see the young woman who had stood before her entire village and spoken the truth. Some came to thank her, others to learn from her. Baba Dubey gave his daughter back her mother's land. Together, they cleared it and planted new crops. The soil, once dry, seemed to grow richer under their care. It was as if the land itself had been waiting for Amara's return. Months passed, and peace returned to Mbale. The village, once proud and blinded by wealth, now became known for fairness and honesty. The elders often said that the day Amara returned was the day the village found its heart again. One evening, Amara stood on the edge of the field, watching the sun set behind the hills. The wind brushed against her face, soft and warm. She thought of all that had happened, the fear, the lies, the courage it took to speak. She whispered to herself, "The truth may hurt, but it brings freedom." And for the first time since her wedding day, she felt truly free. The rains came early that year, washing the red dust from the paths of Mbale village. The trees turned greener, and the river near the fields sang louder than before. Life slowly returned to normal, but something had changed in the hearts of the people. The story of Amara Dubey, the bride who vanished and returned with truth, had become a lesson told around fires at night. Amara herself had changed too. The quiet and uncertain girl who once trembled on her wedding day was gone. In her place stood a woman with calm eyes and steady hands. Her voice carried warmth, but also strength. She had faced pain and shame, and from those wounds, she had built something new. After the truth was revealed in the village square, Amara spent many days alone, walking through the fields that once belonged to her mother. The land had been left untended for months, covered with weeds and wild flowers. She remembered how her mother used to sing while planting seeds, her laughter filling the air. Amara knelt on the ground one morning, pressed her hands into the soil, and whispered, "We begin again, Mama." She cleared the land bit by bit, her father helping when he could. But Amara did not just want to grow crops, she wanted to grow people. She wanted the girls of Mbale to know what she had not known, that knowledge is power and courage is freedom. One day she stood before the elders and said, "I wish to open a small school, not for pride or wealth, but for hope. The girls of our village should learn to read, to plant, to trade, and to lead." The elders looked at one another. No woman had ever made such a request before. Elder Nato spoke first. "A school? For girls? It is not the way things have been done." Amara smiled gently. "Then it is time for new ways. The world changes, even when we do not see it. Let our daughters grow with open eyes." There was silence. Then Baba Dubey rose to his feet. "My daughter speaks with wisdom," he said. "We once lost her to lies and fear. Let us not lose another generation to ignorance." The people agreed. The following week, Amara's small school began under the shade of a wide mango tree near her mother's old farmland. The children sat on mats made of woven reeds, their faces bright with curiosity. Some brought slates and sticks, others came with nothing but eagerness. Amara taught them letters using the dust on the ground. She told stories to teach them counting. She showed them how to plant seeds, how to care for the earth, and how to speak with confidence. At first, the men of the village laughed. "What will letters do for girls?" they said. "They need to learn cooking, not reading." But as the months passed, they began to see changes. The children spoke kindly, worked better in the fields, and helped their parents understand trade and harvest seasons. Slowly, the laughter turned to respect. Amara's small school became a place of light. Every morning, she rose before sunrise, fetched water, and swept the teaching ground. Her students would arrive with smiles, calling, "Mama Amara, tell us a new story today." She would laugh and tell them tales of the forest, of truth and bravery, of how one voice can change many hearts. One of her brightest students was a girl named Tayo, only 10 years old, with sharp eyes and endless questions. One afternoon, she asked, "Mama Amara, were you afraid when they took you away?" Amara smiled sadly. "Yes, I was afraid. But courage does not mean you feel no fear. It means you move forward even when fear is beside you." The girl nodded, her eyes shining with understanding. Sometimes, Amina came from the forest to visit. She would sit beside Amara, watching the children learn. "You have built something beautiful," she said once. Amara smiled. "It is not mine alone. The forest taught me that growth begins in silence, but it does not end there. I only planted what you helped me see." The people of Mbale began to call her Amara the Wise. They came to her for advice, young couples about marriage, farmers about crops, even elders about disputes. She never raised her voice, but her words carried weight. When she spoke, people listened. Kofi's family left the village quietly months after the truth came out. Amara did not speak of them, and no one asked. She had forgiven them in her heart, but she never forgot the lesson their betrayal taught her. Greed destroys peace faster than fire destroys wood. As time went on, the school grew. More girls came from nearby villages, walking long distances just to learn from her. Some brought gifts, baskets of fruit, calabashes of milk, or mats woven by their mothers. Amara accepted them all with gratitude. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Baba Dubey sat beside his daughter on the farmland. He watched the children playing near the mango tree, their laughter filling the air. "You have done something I never thought possible," he said. "You have changed our village without raising a hand or shouting a word." Amara looked at him and smiled. "The heart hears truth more clearly when it is spoken softly," she said. He nodded, pride shining in his eyes. "Your mother would be proud. She always said you carried the light of tomorrow." That night, Amara sat alone outside her hut, watching the stars. The moonlight touched the leaves of the mango tree where her students had left their slates and sticks. The wind whispered through the branches, and she closed her eyes, feeling peace settle over her. She thought about the path that had brought her here, the drums, the masks, the forest, the truth. Everything that once hurt her had now become her strength. The next morning, she began teaching again. She started each lesson with the same words: "The mind is like the earth. What you plant inside it will grow. So plant truth, plant courage, and plant kindness." The children repeated her words proudly, their voices rising together like birds at sunrise. Years passed, and Amara's name traveled beyond Mbale. Visitors came from faraway places to see the woman who had turned pain into purpose. Some called her teacher, some called her healer, but she always smiled and said, "I am just Amara." On the 10th anniversary of her school, the village held a celebration. The children sang songs they had written, and the women danced in colorful wrappers. The elders blessed Amara, thanking her for bringing light to their lives. That night, as the fire burned bright, one of the young girls stood up and said, "We call her Amara the Wise, not because she knows everything, but because she teaches us to learn for ourselves." The crowd cheered, and Amara's heart filled with joy. She realized then that wisdom was not about speaking the loudest or knowing the most. It was about guiding others to find their own strength. When the celebration ended, she looked up at the sky, whispering a quiet prayer of thanks, to her mother, to the forest, and to the path that had shaped her. Her laughter, once broken, had returned, softer but stronger. It carried through the night air, blending with the sound of drums and the rustle of leaves. In Bale, people no longer spoke of her as the kidnapped bride. That name had faded like a shadow after sunset. To them, she was simply Amara the Wise, the woman who taught a whole village that even from pain, something beautiful can grow.